Here. Okay, so the initial impetus was my little series of time management with compassion.
Yes.
And there was something about that this is my friend. I've known him as Raven Star Wolf Mahosada. And then do you want to say your other name? One of your other names?
So my current,
Hmm?
I am Brother André Maria in my Franciscan priestly world. And there are probably some other names there, here and there,
Yeah,
but those are the main ones.
great.
And so I went back to my birth name. My birth name is Andre. I was named after Saint Andrew.
Oh, yeah, I remember. But yeah, I mean, didn't know the St. Andrew part. So yeah, so the subject of time has been something that I work with a lot. I also sometimes I think about calling the series "Working with Time." Managing time is a weird concept. It's like managing gravity.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I guess you're not really managing gravity. There's nothing you can do to control it, stop it, change it. I mean, maybe it's not reasonable. So yeah. What was it that, if I might ask, what was it that sparked your interest in that subject, or sparks your interest in that topic right now?
So, in 2018, which I've discussed with you a little bit, in 2018, my life, my world sort of exploded. I had been working as a spiritual teacher for 20 years. And I tended to have between 50 and 75 people who considered me their spiritual teacher. And sometimes there was a little bit of overlap between people who considered me their spiritual teacher and people that I was doing spiritual direction with. But it was never more than 100 people. And then in 2018, until between the middle of 2018 until the middle of 2019, that number that fluctuated between 50 and 100 went up to 3,000 people. And I had no organization in place to sort of deal with that. And so I went into sort of like what became sort of a permanent overwhelm. And then in 2021, I was ordained a Catholic priest, and a huge number of additional responsibilities came into my world. So the best sort of like succinct way I can tell you how this manifested in a way that directly impacted time management, to use that wrong phrase, is that I'm now in a reality since 2019, I'm in a reality where I get roughly 100 messenger messages per day. And 95% of those are messages that I have to respond to. A very small percentage are spam, or people just saying, hi, how are you doing? Or that kind of 95% of them are people who are students of mine, or people who study with me, who have to be responded to. And I did it just again today. I went through a whole bunch to just see if there were a lot of people that I just simply never responded to. And there were. It just was so overwhelming to get 100 messages per day. There was just no way I can keep up with it, and I still can't keep up with it. But I've placed some limits on it. But it was that was what let me know. So I have to do something. I have to create something where I don't always feel overwhelmed by this. And I know, so you're one solution. I am going to start an organization. I have 3 people who are volunteer assistance for me, and there's somebody else who is in the process of deciding whether they want to fund paying for a real personal assistant for me. So all of these are sort of like a collective sort of solutions that I'm looking. And so you became another, since I've known you for so long, and I've been aware of all of your different works that you've done. I've always respected your work. I like you enormously, and I thought, as soon as I read it, I thought, yes.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for taking the time out of those 100 messages to respond to mine. That's that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you. Of course, responding to mine might have the potential of solving a problem of the other 99 too, as it were. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I've heard where teachers of whatever kind get this to this point where, so from my perspective, if I'm one of the people that want to talk to you, from my perspective, I'm one person and you're one person. And if I send it to you, you should be responsive to me, maybe in the way I would be responsive to you. So it's very hard for each individual person to feel what it's like for you to have to deal with all those other things at the same time.
Right.
But of course, it goes now. Obviously, it's great that you're dealing with it now. If it went 10 times more, it would become completely impossible, right? So it's like, and I've heard about people who became famous and they tried to explain how at some point they simply could not respond to everyone and what it was like, or some people become famous in such a way that they can't even go to the grocery store, and like it's out completely, but just in this sense of how many you're still the one person. And I guess the real the problem solved, as it were, is how do you multiply the essence of what you want to offer people without it's so. One way to think about it, which is good, what you're thinking about assistance, organization, etc., is what components of what I need to do I actually need to do myself?
Right. And there's one more thing I want to tell you.
Yeah.
So one of the strategies that I came up with early, when very early in getting roughly 100 messages a day, I would post these posts on Facebook saying something roughly along the lines of, I'm sorry if I haven't gotten back in touch with you. I get so many messages a day. I get between 75 and 100 messages a day. It's really hard for me to keep up. I'm trying to figure out a way to sort of manage this. But if you end up falling through the cracks, you can always contact me on my on email. It's much easier for me to manage email. And then slowly but surely, I started getting feedback about those messages, and a huge number of people, it was shocking to me, Chris, a huge number of people internalized those messages in an extremely, as them being extremely egoic. They were like, you're trying to impress people. You're trying to make people think that you're so important that you get 100 messages a day, blah, 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 blah. And I was shocked that this is how people held. So then I had to stop. I stopped making those Facebook posts because people were totally misunderstanding why I was doing that. They were obviously projecting their own stuff onto me, but it was hurtful, and it was extremely disturbing that's how a lot of people that have known me for 30 years, people who love me very much, were like, oh, you're just trying to, this is just you trying to show off. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that really, yeah, that's and that's like what I was saying, right? Like that for that person, it's my connection to you. How does that feel? What's my experience in that? And everyone wants to feel like they're special. And I recently come across the idea, like one of the one of the qualities of charisma or charm or whatever, which is slightly different but interesting, is to make you make that person feel very important, you know. And but it there you go, aspects of that, but it's also a wonderful thing to be able to do. And I understand that one of the really critical things here is that special connection that someone would have to you and your ability to like serve them, I assume is very important, right? So you wouldn't just want to. I'm curious about that. Like, what would be? Would you say that that's very important? That would sound to me that if you could multiply yourself, that would be nice, right? Like
Right.
that personal connection of feeling heard directly by you, not through some
Right.
blog post or whatever, video.
And also when I got these, when I got I finally I mentioned I got 3 volunteer assistants.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel I could ask them to respond to personal messages that I was getting. That just didn't feel right. So I had to the volunteer assistants had to deal with other things, and this particular issue could never get addressed.
Right. Okay. They weren't fielding or organizing your messages for you. They were doing other
No,
things.
they were doing other things. One serves as my editor, which is what he does professionally. He serves as my editor for, articles, a book that I'm writing, and that's his full thing. And the other 2, deal with my schedules and in the COVID world, in the COVID realities, scheduling like Zoom sessions and things like that. But I felt like I could not give any of them this big looming thing that was really the thing that pushed me over the edge, which was all these messages I got every day.
I have a good question for you. A couple, good question and a good thought. Okay, so if your day was perfect, just the way you'd like it to be, or you feel the most in tune with your purpose, your energy, what's good, natural, right for you, whatever you want to think about that. How many people do you think, or well, okay, I'm trying to ask a lot of questions at once, but like the essence of the question is, if all this stuff around being able to respond to these people, if all the stuff around it, so all you had to do was just do that. And so maybe you had the most organized, you had an assistant completely, filtering out the ones that were irrelevant, or the ones where they really just had a piece of information, or perhaps ones that were, maybe there's a way you could filter out some of them, or that they wanted a connection with you, but maybe there was a series of a video or something that they might possibly watch first or something to get started. I don't know. I'm not trying to dismiss people that really want a connection with you, but thinking about sometimes there's sort of superficial things that someone could get first before, or that they pose their question in a good way. There could be a lot of ways to prepare this so that it was just these very nicely prepared nuggets of, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I need, and this is the way I want the connection, and in a way that's right for what you do. So
Yes.
just imagine that's all you get. Like that's all you have to deal with in that whole zone. Like, how many hours a day would you like to be doing that? And how, if there was nicely, like how many do you think you could do comfortably and enjoyably and all of that?
So I think I'm going to answer your question in a sort of a weird way. Let me know if it still doesn't answer your question. So a percentage of what I consider a fairly small percentage of those roughly 100 100 messenger messages I would get per day were students who simply just wanted to say hi. They didn't have like a specific question or a specific problem. they just wanted to say hi, and they wanted to just kind of touch base with me.
Mhm.
So one day, I didn't give this to one of my assistants. I just did it myself because I just wanted to see what would happen. So I decided I'm going to just respond to those people, and I'm just going to say thank you for your message. It's always wonderful to hear from you. I'm doing well. That.
Yeah.
And it took me 6 hours straight with no break, 6 hours to just respond to the fraction that's just people saying, hi teacher, hi guru, how are you doing today? And I responded, thank you for your message. It's always good to hear from you. 6 hours straight for me to just answer. And that was probably between 25 and 30% of all of them. And I did have an assistant who said I would be willing to do that, but still, it just kind of felt weird to hand that off to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is you're going from being able to have that kind of one-on-one connection with all the people that wanted it, I guess. If there were 100 and now if there's 3,000, then you just don't, right? So like it creates a different reality. It creates a different situation. So there's the things we're talking about right now can mitigate that. It can mediate that. It can create a lot of good. It's not going to completely solve it, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
And I've thought, I'm sure Eckhart Tolle gets like thousands of messages, and I'm sure he doesn't respond to them. But see, I think when you get to that level of fame, something you have to shift some kind of, and I'm not at that level of fame, so I don't have that kind of consciousness where I can just like, well, it's just impossible for me to respond to these people, so I don't even care.
Yeah, it's tantalizingly almost possible. If you're up to the next level, order of magnitude, it wouldn't be possible, and it might bother you less because it would just be impossible. Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know what it continues to be, that whole messenger message thing continues to be the straw that breaks this camel's back. And I don't know what the solution is. But I'm willing to hear and listen to and adhere to any strategies you might have.
Yeah, so I mean, I've sort of almost been dancing around a strategy that would help you mitigate. And that's very interesting. And like, I'll say two pieces that are like totally different. One is the mitigating part. And that is that. So with that, I'm always interested in like, what would someone's ideal day be like? What would feel just great, right? So like, that would help you. It would help if you got the help you need to create a system. I mean, I think it could be possible. Email might be better because it's a little easier to sort of manage, or a lot easier actually. So if you have an assistant, they can log into your email and you can have a special email and they can put them into different buckets and stuff like that. Or it's actually even possible to have, what I'm going to say is going to sound extremely impersonal, but it doesn't actually have to be, and you don't have to frame it this way to people. You could have their support ticket software, but it's amazing because it's designed for a whole team to handle incoming messages, to classify those messages, to put them in a queue, to have them. So there could, and some of it's not expensive at all, where you have a team and then you can just focus on, here's my queue and and then you're still very much writing a heartfelt message to that person, and then it can track the thread of that conversation. and it sounds very, but in principle, I say, but it's like, you could say this issue is closed, and you could make it not sound that way to the people. I think,
Right,
right?
right.
But practically speaking, that would absolutely give you just what you needed, and it's designed for that.
Okay.
And then as far as the question I had of like, what would be wonderful for you, it would be to spend 3 hours a day doing this, to be spend 5. It's like, in your heart, what is the right amount? Because then at least you get, for me, it's always like, you're getting in touch with the energy of the most ideal situation. It's kind of a good thing.
Right.
To be, then you can energetically kind of know this would be optimal, because it's a guide. It's a thing that draws you towards what you really want to create, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so then those assistants and those technology or whatever would also be part of that manifesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that's not going to completely solve the issue. So then the other, okay, so that's that part. I'll say the other part and then see if you have any questions. Okay. Whatever.
Okay.
So like the other part, completely different, is I think it's time to, I suggest that it's time to go into a contemplation about this phase, right? You're between the phase where you get to just answer everyone and the phase where it's completely impossible.
Right.
And this is a perfect time to say, how do you do? I take walks. I take a lot of walks, and I think that whatever it is, and what does this mean that I'm getting to this point where it's literally impossible, and feel in your heart, what does that mean? And I might have to find ways to use videos more.
Yes.
Or different things, or what's the essential, or if I had to boil it down, what is the thing I'm really trying to transmit by that connection? How much can be done through a video? What really needs to be done in person, or when? There's a lot of contemplation you could do about this, to sort of really think about what really works best. What's the essence? Of course, everyone would just love to be able to talk to you if they want to. They will love that.
Right.
But in a deeper sense, what's the deepest value? And how can you get that to the people? And then that's nice, because as you come to your conclusions about that, write them down or whatever, this will really make everyone's day better who's trying to get your attention, right? It will actually improve their experience. Even if they don't get exactly what they thought they wanted, it will improve their experience. And it will also set you up in a good way, so that as you go forward, you probably will grow in terms of the audience. Then it will prepare you to be able to do that.
Yes. Yes. I can hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
It feels good, and it feels doable. I feel like I want to oh, you're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back and hear.
I'm recording it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back and listen to it again.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Good idea. Yeah.
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 That definitely sounds good. Yeah.
Yes.
You hit it really good to when you said that in between plays. It's right on that edge. It's like, if I work really hard, I can probably do it. And it's
tantalizing.
It's not true. It's just, because I have a life, and now I say mass every day. I like, now being a priest, I have like all these other priestly things that I have to do every day.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's. That's true for a lot of people, actually, that there's something very enticing, very rewarding, very satisfying about helping people. And then if you become one of those helper people, then people want more of your help and more of your help and more of your help. And there's a part of it that wants to do it. And then, yeah, you have to confront that finite finitude, I guess is the word, the finite.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So there is, so there's the part about confronting that is a contemplation of integrating your understanding about what that's really going to look like and what's most important here. And then there are the practical considerations of how could I systematically improve this process. And I'm happy to give you some advice on some of that software or whatever, if you want, things like that. Yeah. And organizing people to get that done. There's a book that I've started reading, which is a really interesting book called Who Not How. And it's all about how we have such an indoctrination that if I want to get something done, I've got to do it. And I ask, how shall I do this? But then he's really saying that's kind of the wrong question. The question is, who can I get to help me accomplish this? Who can help me accomplish this? And so his whole point is engineering your life so that you are doing the activities that you are most effective at, and you're getting other people to do those other things. And so this is really a strategy to do that.
Yes.
That one part of it is like letting them be in service. Maybe there's a person who you know in your life who's a good organization person. And then you could actually show them this recording. You could actually walk them through, this is what I need, and have them help you find the people and set up the processes. So you don't even necessarily have to be the person that sets it all up. You could, if there's an organization type person, maybe they can help. They could understand what we're saying here, and they could help make that happen.
Yes. I have a question for you, too, Chris. So I got those 3 volunteer assistants when this problem was very real, and it hasn't really gotten worse since that time. It's kind of leveled off.
Mm-hmm.
But the very first one of those 3, it was interesting, and I'm curious to hear what your response to this is going to be. So I had these 3 people. How those 3 people came about was I simply put a post on Facebook, and I said, I'm looking for a volunteer assistant to help me, manage my, I forgot exactly what I said, but I listed a couple of things. And in my mind, I was only looking for one such person. Well, I got 3 responses. All 3 of those people are people who consider me their spiritual teacher. And they are all 3 people who are quite serious about that relationship. One of them has another person who he also considers his spiritual teacher. So I did some back and forth with all 3 of those people, asking them some questions. And the outcome of that was that all 3 of those people were really, 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 really interested in that position. And I knew all of them about the same. They all seemed very competent to me, blah, 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 blah. So I made the decision to have 3 assistants instead of 1. And so since this whole thing about answering messenger messages was way up at the top of my consciousness, I just chose one of them randomly and contacted him first and said, one of the things I'm interested in you helping me with is managing this thing. And he's a person who is a very organized person. And I was surprised that he wanted to be my assistant. And he's a psychiatric nurse. So he's very good at just like organizing things and keeping up. You know, he's got a very large caseload and he's always on top of it, blah, 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 blah. So I said, one of the things I'm looking for is just someone to help me organize. He was aware that I get like over 100 messages a day. And his response was, oh, I was hoping that you would want me to do something more interesting than that. He said, that's just so, he said, I'll do it if you really want me to, but that's just so, he just was not excited about it. And he just thought it was very sort of boring or something. I don't know what the right word is. So I never pursued that with him. And I was so sort of disappointed is too strong of a word. I was so deflated by his response. I then didn't ask the other two people who, you know, being a psychiatric nurse is intense, but the other two people had even more sort of executive positions. So I was like, oh wow, if he doesn't want to do this, the other two probably really don't want to.
You know, I have a brief anecdote that goes back to our time, that one time when we went to the Rainbow Gathering.
Yes, I remember that well.
2001. Beautiful in the mountains of Idaho, just like paradise, crystal clear, little streams going by the green grass and the mountains and everything. The only time I ever went there. And I remember being amazed at the power of service that mostly the kids, the younger people in their 20s and maybe 30s were coming in and just kind of having fun. Some of them were kind of getting high, partying for the most part. And then you had the older ones for the most part, who were the old timers who were the leaders, and they were working. They were setting up the camps, they were setting up the kitchens, and then they would get people involved. And I'm not trying to overgeneralize here, but I just remember about the importance of service. And I mean, it was so fun, a little tiny bit of service that I did in the kitchens. It was so fun. And then being in that experience of Seva, and then the food tasted so wonderful because it was a gift. It makes me want to go back again, actually, because it's so rare to feel a gift, a pure gift. I mean, it's so, oh my God, just lentils or whatever it was, you know, just amazing. Amazing. So then the anecdote was, I remember for what they have to do for bathrooms is they have to go out into the woods and carve pit latrines, just a big long pit, and then you just kind of like have to lower yourself and poop into the pit. So they have to make the pit real deep. And I just remember thinking, it's the leaders that go out and do this hard work.
Right.
And in normal society, we have this very deep hierarchy where it's like, if you know you're the executive, that you're elevated in the clouds above any menial thing, and then down at the lowest level is the person that has to clean the toilets, right, or deal with the toilets. And I thought, wow, in this world it's reversed. It's like it's the greatest service, because I saw this with people, that it was their greatest service to be able to provide that fundamental value to people. Right. And so interesting that I thought of that. Now, you know, so I guess the net moral is could be you never know how people might hold that task.
You're right, and that's a good reminder. And along the same note, I've probably gone to see Amma maybe 10 times at this point, and I have gotten to know some of those people personally now who are like running around, like making sure everything's okay. Not the people who are like helping you get a hug, but the people who are on the floor, like running the gift shop and running errands and this and that. And I've gotten to know several of those people, and like all of those people that I've met and have gotten to know, who are like, when Amma comes to their town, they're the ones like running around doing all this grunt work.
Yeah.
Every single one of those people are people who run their own multi-million-dollar companies.
Right.
And their seva to Amma is like, this is my opportunity to, exactly what you just said, about how the rainbow gathering. There's like, this is my opportunity to do real service that, that we in this culture want to say, well, this should be like the lowest level people who are doing this kind of work. And they're very, 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 every single one. I had long conversations with those people, and they all just think it is the most amazing thing that they get to, when Thomas there, they get to run around and do all this kind of menial stuff. They love it.
And at the same time, like, who knows what that was going on for that one person. I was just being very honest about, I'm not the right person for this type of job, or or whatever was going on for them. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I probably should have had a follow-up conversation with him.
What does excite you? What is interesting to you? And you might be surprised. It might be just a different type of thing. It might be, maybe there's, if you're a psych nurse, you're probably driven by all these little crises that happen in interpersonal. Maybe that's more their thing, or who knows what it is about that they like, or it just maybe not the job for them.
Right.
Yeah. So
but I was so deflated at that point, and I was so overwhelmed at that point, I didn't give myself the space to sort of like think it through further. It's like it became another problem that I had to solve, and I already had like 200 problems to solve.
Well, I invite you, I guess I invite everyone, I invite myself to think like about the value of contemplation time. So there's a famous business consultant, Peter Drucker, and he talked about how the executive, but we could think of ourselves as the executive too, that we're in charge of things. The executive needs a lot of uninterrupted think time.
Yes.
And what I found is that's profoundly impacting. So for me, as I said, I do walks. I go out and take a walk, and then I will turn off my podcasts or my whatever. And if I just take some time, talk out loud sometimes, and talk out what I'm thinking, sometimes I actually record it, then I get a clarity. I rise to that 10,000 foot level, and I get a clarity into space in which I can think strategically. And it's amazing. It's a night and day thing. I could do that, and then it changes my life for the next week, for the next however long. I have realizations that are can be very functionally transform how I operate and make huge changes. When we're in that whack-a-mole, we're never that. You could be in whack-a-mole day after day and never have those realizations. So that's where, if you took one of those 5 hours and you took a walk, let's say, and you thought, well, what's really going on here? What do I need? What's working? What's not working? What really happened with that person? What would it mean if I took a little more time to ask the next person, but then, my gosh, over a few months, that might give me tens of hours and hundreds of hours eventually back. You can have those kind of thoughts when you're out taking a walk.
Right.
You can't have those thoughts. There's no room for those thoughts when you're just trying to, like, whack the next mole.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. So it's extremely powerful just to be able to do that for yourself. Yeah.
Yes. So true. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very, very, very easy to get caught in that. And it's interesting because you're driven by service, you're driven by helping these people. So it's just like, might seem hard on the surface to pull away from it. But
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Excellent.
we'll end the recording here. Thank you. And then we'll end
Thank
the
you.
call in a minute. Okay, so good. Okay, stop, record.